Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, and today I'm going to be talking about the independent horror film Zombie Honeymoon from 2004. And the film begins with newlyweds Denise and Danny bailing on any of that reception nonsense and heading straight off into the sunset to enjoy their life together. Also to have sexy fun times in the backyard of the place where they're staying, which honestly seems like it would be quite uncomfortable, but never mind. Anyway, the next day they're at the beach when a ragged man staggers out of the water and assaults Danny. Despite Danny's efforts to fight him off and Denise's attempts to assist her husband, this intruder succeeds in holding Danny down and vomiting a viscous black fluid all over his face and into his mouth. Danny immediately goes into like a shock state or a state of bodily arrest due to whatever the black stuff was, and he is rushed to hospital. Nothing seems to help, however, and the hospital staff are just done pronouncing him deceased when he sits up, feeling completely fine. As you might imagine, the medical professionals are unsurprisingly rather perplexed by this, but Denise doesn't care how Danny came back, just that he did. Now, of course, we know from the title of the movie exactly what's going on here, so we know that Denise is probably going to regret her initial "the only thing that matters is that Danny is back" kind of position. The question is, will she survive to express that regret? I'm a sucker for a film with a pithy title, and Zombie Honeymoon was an absolute must-see for me as soon as I learned of its existence. I was like, how can I not watch this film? Now, of course, watching a film on the strength of its title alone carries some risks. Coming up with a memorable, punchy name is easier than making a movie, and a whole lot easier than making a good film. For instance, to live up to its title, Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow would have had to have been about 15 times better than it actually was. So while I knew that I at least had to give Zombie Honeymoon a try, I was by no means convinced that I was going to actually enjoy the experience when I sat down to watch it. Overall, though, I was actually fairly impressed. While the film kind of uncomfortably straddles a couple of different genres and may struggle to connect with a lot of audience members as a result of that, it does do several things quite well. So let's dive in to discuss whether this is a zombie honeymoon to remember. So my old man quibbles about the discomfort of backyard hanky-panky aside, the opening act of this film is a really solid one. We get to meet Denise and Danny on their wedding day, and the script does a good job of establishing them as two people who care deeply for each other. The zombie attack on the beach, because I mean you did realise it was a zombie, right? Is also well executed. The sudden burst of violence feels shocking, even though as viewers we know something like that has to be coming. I also like that Denise actively tries to protect Danny from the attack, kicking the zombie and trying to drag it off him. There's no just sort of standing around screaming ineffectually here. Then, after Danny's apparently miraculous recovery, that obviously we all know is secretly bad news, the film smartly does something that not a lot of narratives like this might have bothered with. It spends more time just showing us the couple together, illustrating the good relationship they have and how they care for one another. It gives our tension over Danny's condition some time to grow. I also really like that the script spends a moment to deal with Denise reacting to not losing Danny. Often fiction kind of glosses over the stressed and horrified what-ifs that accomplish a near miss like Danny believes she's experienced. I think that's good writing to show Denise struggling to deal with the fact that she almost lost her husband, even though she didn't. That's not something that you just kind of brush off and walk away from. It's good writing. And a key factor in the success of these early scenes is the performances from Tracy Coogan and Graham Sibley as Denise and Danny. Neither of these actors were then or have since become household names, but they are both solidly capable performers who do good work here. Which is important because a huge amount of the film rests on the two of them convincingly portraying the deep love their characters are supposed to share, and making the audience believe in that relationship as it enters the nightmarish scenario that one of them is now a cannibalistic undead. Coogan's performance as Denise is particularly good and was rightly singled out for a 2006 award by the venerable horror magazine Fangoria. As the member of the couple who does not get turned into a flesh-eating ghoul, hers is the more challenging, and if you'll forgive the expression, meatier role. And she executes it really well. So, a great start and good performances. Why is this film not an unequivocal success? Well, simply put, the second half doesn't quite match up to the first. I think perhaps for me part of this comes from the fact that the pattern of Denise and Danny's relationship starts to feel kind of abusive. Danny succumbs to his lust for flesh and kills someone, then persuades Denise to cover it up for him, promising that he would never hurt her and saying that he can't live without her. Now, these may be intended by the script to be sincere statements, or they may be intended to sound like the kind of self-justifications that emotionally manipulative and abusive partners sometimes employ to control their spouses. I'm not sure how we're supposed to interpret it in the context of the film. I think it can be interpreted either way, and it kind of uncomfortably straddles both possibilities. The later zombie elements of the film also do not really match up to the impact and intensity of the original Attack on the Beach. And I suspect that budgetary limitations played a part in this. This is not a big budget movie by any stretch of the imagination. And also that the filmmakers may have wanted to keep things a bit more low-key to help make Denise's complicity in covering up Danny's murders seem less egregious than it actually is. Because, I mean, that is what she's doing. She's covering up murders, and she's enabling the murderer to continue killing. The ending of the film also seemed a smidgen too pat for me. I get that they probably didn't want to go full downer with the conclusion, but I don't know that I entirely bought the ending. Possibly because I had that sense of the relationship developing into an emotionally manipulative, abusive one. It felt to me that the sticky end would have been far more thematic and plausible, though probably not one that many people would have liked. So I understand why they didn't do it. I think they really painted themselves into a bit of a narrative corner here, and there was no kind of good answer. So yeah, Zombie Honeymoon doesn't quite gel as a whole, but it does have some really solid elements, and I don't regret indulging my weakness for pithy titles to see it. Next time, I'm going to take a look at a trio of old-time crime films, Gang Bullets and Gangster's Boy, both from 1938, and then the 1941 offering Gangs, Inc. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.